We are running a little bit behind, so I am going to invite our next speaker, Dr. Amit Patel, on the stage, who lost his sight suddenly some years ago, and he's become a campaigner for more inclusive cities, and he's gonna tell us all about it, and we're in awe of his work. Amit, give it away.
Thank you very much. Usually I've got a black Labrador sat next to me, but it's a bit too hot for my guide dog today. So you've just got me today. Can I move it slightly back? Just put my notes on, sorry. Thank you. Lovely.
If you need water,
Right, thank you. All right, before I begin, I'll give you a visual description of myself for anybody who is blind or visually sighted, partially sighted. Usually, I will ask my daughter, who's 7 years old in the morning, describe Daddy before I go off to work. She has just turned 7 and she's very honest now, so I'm not going with her. There's a lot of Dad, you've got a lot of white hairs on your beard, so we're gonna take that away. I'm a British Asian man in my early 40s, short dark hair, a beard, brown skin. I'm wearing I think a light blue shirt, dark chinos, and I'm smiling because I'm delighted to be here with you today. So hello everybody. I'd like to start with a simple question. When was the last time you left your house and gave any thought of the pavement outside? Most people don't. You walk out of your front door, head to work, take your children to work, catch a bus, catch a train, and get on with your day. But the infrastructure around you is largely invisible. Largely invisible because it works. But when you're blind and the built environment becomes impossible to ignore, every pavement, every crossing, every parked vehicle on the pavement, every unexpected obstacle, every poorly designed space becomes something you have to navigate, access, and adapt to. So, as you know, my name is Dr. Amit Patel. I'm a former trauma doctor. Now I'm a diversity inclusion consultant, broadcaster, and author. I'm also a trustee for Living Streets, where I work alongside my colleagues to help make our streets safer and more accessible and more inclusive. Before losing my sight in 2013, I spent years working in emergency medicine. My job was often dealing with the consequences of things going wrong. Today, I spend much of my time thinking about how we can stop things from going wrong in the first place. And nowhere is this more important than in our streets, pavements, and public spaces that connect us to our schools, workplaces, and communities. There's a quote from Tim Gill that says, "A city that works for children works better for everyone." I think that's absolutely right. In fact, I'd argue that if a city works for a child, a disabled person, and the elderly, it probably works for everybody else too. Because if a child can move around safely, if an older person feels confident walking to the shops, if a wheelchair user can travel independently, and if a blind person can navigate without fear, then we've probably created a city that works for us all. The challenge is that many places are still designing around that imaginary average person. Someone who can see, hear, move quickly, process information quickly and easily, and react confidently in busy environments. The reality is that there's no such average person. We all move through the world differently. As a blind person and a former trauma doctor, I can often describe my experience of carrying out a continuous risk assessment every time I'm out and about. I'm going to go off script here. And if I'm honest, I come into Waterloo Station, and I come in with my guide dog usually. I can come in to Waterloo East at the top, make my way out, and be out within about 4 or 5 minutes. It took me 25 minutes today with a white cane to make my way out. And then when I did make my way out, I can get from Waterloo Station to here in less than 10 minutes. Again, another 25 minutes with a white cane, because there's nowhere to wayfind. and you're told to pull out your mobile phone and help guide you around, there's no way I'm pulling out a mobile phone in London. My wife isn't sight impaired and she's had her phone stolen. There's no way a blind person is going to pull out his phone. So there's still a lot of work to do. I think everybody should just get a guide dog, but that's just my opinion. Back onto script now. I have to find where I am now, sorry. This is the problem with Braille, and when it's warm, your fingers become a little bit too numb, and you can't read where you are. Okay, as a blind person and a former trauma doctor, I often describe my experience as carrying out a continuous risk assessment. Every journey involves questions. Has someone parked on the pavement? Will there be roadworks? Do the spinning cones on the pedestrian crossings work? Will there be a cycle lane running through a pedestrian space? Will someone leave a rental e-scooter or a bike blocking the route? Will I be able to find the bus stop or the entrance to the train station or tube station? Most people never have to think about those things, but millions of us do. One of the perspectives I bring is that I'm a blind parent. My children's school is less than 10 minutes walk from our house. On paper, that sounds simple. It's a perfect journey. It's local, it's walkable, and it should be straightforward. But every day, the short journey reminds me of just how much design of our streets matter. To get to school, we cross a busy junction with a pelican crossing, four side roads and 2 zebra crossings. Even sometimes, half the time, 50% of the times, the spinning cones don't work. So I'm reliant on my kids to take me across the road, but to then come back on the return journey, it's always 50-50. I hope someone sees me, or I just stand there and someone will say it's clear to cross. And the road outside the school, there's no speed calming measures. It's straight and it's long, which means drivers frequently approach at speed. Some stop at the zebra crossing, and some chance it, even when you're on the zebra crossing or about to step onto the zebra crossing. And as a blind parent, I can't make eye contact with the drivers. I can't rely on visual clues. I have to trust they'll do what the crossing is meant to be designed for. Most days it works, some days it doesn't, and it doesn't feel safe. Then there's pavement parking. Alongside this route, cars are expected to park within the marked bays on the pavement. In reality, it doesn't work. It's now become a daily occurrence where you could be walking along the pavement and a car will come up and park or toot you to tell you you're in a parking space, which is meant to be a safe place for pedestrians. And just think about that. The place which is supposed to be the safest place for pedestrians can suddenly become part of the road. These aren't extraordinary examples. These are major infrastructure failures. They're everyday design decisions and everyday behaviours. But when you experience them every single day, you realise how small barriers accumulate and how easy independence can be undermined. What's interesting is none of these issues affect only blind people. Parents with pushchairs, children walking to school face them, older people face them, wheelchair users face them. Anyone who wants to move around safely and confidently faces these issues. And that's why accessibility isn't a specialist issue, it's a human issue. When people talk about disability, then they often focus on the individual. What can that person do? What can't that person do? How can they adapt? But accessibility isn't really about people adapting to the environment, it's about the environment adapting to people. The best accessibility measures are often those nobody notices, nobody sees. Clear crossings, uncluttered pavements, predictable layouts, good lighting, reduced traffic speed, consistent wayfinding, safe places for children to walk, wheel and cycle. These aren't special features for disabled people, they're simply good design. And good design benefits everybody. And this is particularly important when we look forward to the future of transport. We're living through a period of incredible innovation. Driverless vehicles are becoming a reality. E-scooters and e-bikes are changing how people move around the cities and towns. Artificial intelligence is transforming the way we plan, operate our transport system. And don't get me wrong, I use technology every single day. Technology has given me my independence, my confidence, and the opportunity that simply wouldn't exist a generation ago. So this isn't an argument about innovation. It's an argument about getting the basics right. Because before I can step into a driverless vehicle, I first need to safely find that vehicle. Can I find the bus stop independently? Are the tactile paving surfaces in the right place? Are the curbs consistent and predictable? Is the pavement clear of obstacles? Can I walk safely to the station without having to step into the road? If we can get those foundations right, then most advanced technology in the world wouldn't solve those problems. The future of transport cannot simply be about moving people faster. It must also be about ensuring everybody can access the future. Innovation and accessibility should never compete with each other. They should work hand in hand. The smartest cities of the future won't just be the ones with the newest technology. They will be the ones that combine innovation and with inclusive design and never forget the human experience at the center of every journey. The decisions made by planners, transport leaders, local authorities, developers, and policymakers have a direct impact on the people's freedom. Freedom to get to school, freedom to get to work, freedom to visit friends, freedom to exercise, freedom to participate in community life, freedom to belong. So what does accessibility from the start look like? First, involve disabled people early, not after plans are finished, not during consultation as a tick box exercise, at the very beginning. People with lived experience can often identify problems long before they are even built. Second, focus on predictability. People navigating more confidently when environments are intuitive and consistent. Third, think about speed. Places designed entirely around moving vehicles quickly often create barriers for everybody else. Safer, slower streets tend to lead to better streets. And finally, remember that the inclusion is not about compliance, it's about experience. A place that can technically meet every standard can still leave people excluded. The real test is simple. Can people use it confidently, safely, and independently? Because when people can move independently, opportunities open up. Education, employment, health, social connections, community participation. And that is why freedom to move is everybody's business. Not because it's one group or one group benefits, but because we all benefit. The cities and communities we create today will shape how future generations experience the world. Children growing up should never have to learn that danger, exclusion, or inaccessibility are normal. They should expect better. So my call to action is this. Whatever role you hold in this room, whether you're a planner, an engineer, a designer, a policymaker, transport operator, campaigner, or a leader, ask yourself one question. Who is missing from the journey you're designing? Because if a city works for a child walking to school, a blind parent navigating independently, or an older person walking to the shops, it will probably work for everybody else too. And when you leave the room today, I don't want you to think about accessibility as something extra, something expensive, or something that only benefits a minority. I want you to think about the next pavement, the next crossing, the next junction, streets or public space that you influence. Ask yourself, would you be happy for my child to use it alone? Would I be happy for a blind person to navigate it independently? Would I be happy for my parents to use it as they grow older? If the answer is yes, you're probably designing for everybody. Don't treat accessibility as a feature or an add-on. Treat it as a principle that shapes every decision from the start. Because freedom to move is not a privilege, it's a foundation of opportunity, independence, and dignity. And building up freedom is everybody's business. Thank you very much.